Welcome back to the Word Expanded, the Gospels. We're in Matthew chapter 5. We just did verses 17 through 20 where we talked about relaxing the commandments, right? We just did a little word study, different versions of the Bible, and it goes everywhere from breaking to annulling to relaxing, right? That's a big, wide spectrum, right? So it's important that as we read the Bible, that we're looking at those things. I would encourage you to get a second or a third, right, different version of the Bible, because you want to know some of these things. And again, Jesus is trying in this Sermon on the Mount to get us to that actual thought process. Like, you've heard it said this, but I'm telling you this, right? That the spectrum's wide. It's not just if you did it; it's if you thought it, right? If you wanted to do it. Jesus challenges us with that, right? And so we look at this, and we're to look at it differently. That's what Jesus is asking us to do. The problem is the fight within us isn't that exact thing. We don't want to think differently. I want to think the way that I want to, right? So when I think, hey, this makes sense to me, and other people are going like, Andy, that's hypocritical, right? You're saying that it's okay for you, but it's not okay for somebody else. I don't want anything to do with their interpretation. I want my interpretation, right? In verse 21 of Matthew chapter 5, it says this: "You have heard it said to those of old, 'You shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment.' But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says 'you fool' will be liable to the hell of fire." So, if you are offering your gift at the altar and you remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going to him with court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly, I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. Listen, there's 25 sermons in this, right? Just one word sermons that you can go out of this section. But the idea here is that Jesus is upping the standard. He's cueing us in to how heaven thinks, how heaven looks at things. It doesn't matter what you think about that. It doesn't matter how you interpret it. Jesus outright said, listen, I'm telling you that you shouldn't even have thoughts like this, or you are liable to judgment, right? But then he goes a step further. He talks about, like, there's the obvious murder, but he's constantly reminding us that, you know where murder comes from? It comes from this idea that we get angry. And when we get angry, we let something, right, happen within us where we are focused on the demise of somebody else. We're focused on the negative of somebody else, what somebody else did, right? Right away, we're pulled out of being a true Christian. And we're forced, right, to get into this deep rut that is really hard to get out of having bad thoughts about somebody. You and I have sat in places, church services, meetings, small groups, work, play, family get-togethers. We've sat at places where somebody's just sitting in that rut. They're so angry. They're so mad that everything that they say is tainted by that. And they're just totally focused. Listen, if you go to church and the first 5 minutes, you are completely focused on how much you dislike somebody, what they did to you, how angry you are with them. I'm gonna just say this as a pastor, right? Get up and do one of two things. Either do what Jesus challenges us to do, which is go to the person and take care of it. I don't care if you interrupt the church service. Get up, go to that person and say, hey, can I talk to you? Right? Now again, somebody's going to say, oh, that's going to make a scene and all these things. Yep, you should do it in a way that is not disruptive. Now, for the record, you should have this done way before the church service, right? But if you're in the middle of the church service and the first 5 minutes and you can't get away from being angry, you should either get up, go to the person and take care of it, or you should get yourself up and leave. Why? Because the church service is about you worshiping God. And you know what you're doing? You're worshiping the demonic, right, personality of anger. That's what you're going to do. The entire service, you're going to worship anger. That's where you're giving your allegiance. That's where you're giving your attention. That's where you're giving your thought processes. And guess what's going to happen by the end of the service? You're going to be more angry, more upset, more frustrated, more all the things. Why? Because you've just worshiped, right, a lowercase g God, right, in a way that's going to give him authority and power in your mind, in your body, right? I mean, I'm not, that's not overestimating it. All of us have been there before. How many times have you gone to work and by the end of work you are more mad than you were at the beginning of the work over what something has happened to you or what somebody has done to you? This is the problem. We focus on this. So take care of it. Again, if you walk into a church service and you're angry with somebody, you're mad at somebody, or you think somebody has something against you, in the first 5 minutes, you ought to be doing something revolutionary. How about if you tried this on this next Sunday morning? Go into church, and while you're sitting there, maybe you get there 2 minutes early. Great. Get there 2 minutes early, sit and go, Lord, is there anybody I need to go apologize to? Is there anybody that I'm angry with right now that I need to go and reconcile? Is there anything I need to take care of before I worship you? Right? Not as you're sitting there, look at everybody and go, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, they all need to come to me. They all need to ask me for forgiveness. I've sat with lots of people in meetings, even recently, that are mad and angry and frustrated, partly with me. And they just sit there and they pout and they mope the whole time. Well, wait, Jesus talks about this in this section. Let me go there, right? It says, whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says you fool will be liable to the hell of fire. Do you know what an insult is? An insult is when somebody's talking and you can't look at them, and you can't pay attention to them, and you can't give them any respect, and you can't do anything but be rude to them. So when you're sitting in a church service and you're so upset with the worship leader because she sang a song you don't like her in a way you don't like it, and you can't give them any respect, you can't sing along, that's an insult. You are insulting somebody. You're saying that, listen, this person is so bad, I don't have to pay any attention to them, or I'm so angry with them. And if you go a step further and you give them no value, now you're in danger of hell. Because the Bible says when you call somebody a fool, you're saying to somebody, you have no value. So have you treated anybody at work lately like they have no value? Have you treated anybody in your small group like they have no value? In your church like they have no value? Have you treated anybody in a meeting like they have no value? Have you treated your kids like they have no value? When they're sitting there, you're sitting there and your kids run up and they want to tell you something, have you treated them as if they have no value? I said, we got to teach about not interrupting. We got to teach about honoring other people and say, listen, I'm in the middle of a moment here. Okay. But you can easily say to your kids, give me 1 minute. I'll finish this up. Give me 1 minute. You can say to the person anywhere along the line, hey, what you say, I want to hear it, but this just isn't the moment to hear it. You know, I've argued with people and before, and that's been at the crux of it. I'm not ready to hear what you have to say. I don't want to hear what you have to say at this moment, and I'm just not going to honor you. I'm not listening to you. I tell you, I say it all the time, and I'm telling you that I'm a hypocrite. When you're talking over somebody, you're saying to them that they're a fool. What you have to say right now is not valuable. I'm not going to listen to you. And when you do that, you're in danger of hell. Why? Because God says that above all else, we're to honor God. We're to worship God. We're to love God. But then we're to love people. And my 1 Corinthians 13 says, love isn't ever rude. It's not rude. And that's what Jesus is saying here. Listen, you don't have to like somebody to love them and to value them enough to just listen to what they have to say. So if you can't walk into a meeting at church and listen, please don't go to the meeting. If you can't walk into a worship service and honor people and respect people and love on people and worship your God, don't go. If you're sitting in that worship service and you know that that you have done something to hurt somebody else, then you better go to them and make it right, because your worship service is worthless. Right? You got to put down your gift. Here's the key. Let me close with this. You got to be asking God those things. You got to be willing and obedient enough and brave enough and probably dumb enough. But in God's culture, if you want to be the greatest, you got to be the least, right? You need to be brave enough to say, God, is there anybody sitting here this morning that has anything against me? I need to take care of it. Notice, Jesus didn't say, if you evaluate the situation and you feel like somebody legitimately has a complaint against you, then go to that person, right? Now listen, if you've gone to that person and you've tried to make it right and you've talked to them and tried to ask for forgiveness and done other things, if you've gone to that person to talk to them and they're still carrying a grudge around, that's on them, not on you, right? Because now really, if they're praying about it, God ought to be able to say to them, this person, they have something against you because you won't forgive them, because you won't do the right things, right? God says, take care of these things, right? First be reconciled to your brother, then worship, right? First, do what I've commanded you to do. Don't relax the commands. Then you worship. Hey, that's a whole bunch to chew on. You should read it. Read it for yourself, right? Read it for yourself with conviction. God, where am I in this whole thing? Right? Who this week have I called a fool? Who have I treated like a fool? Who have I treated worthlessly this week? Right? Those things are important. We'll see you next time. The Word expanded, the Gospels.